Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Sure.
Do not be like those who forgot about Allah. Allah caused them to forget about themselves. How does Tawheed affect you? This worldview, when you internalize it and live by it, it actually asserts your humanity. And when you forget about Allah, when you displace God from the picture, then what? You forget about your humanity. Your humanity. What it means to be a human being. And thus we find people walking around looking like human beings, bereft of this understanding of the divine in their life, and behaving in the most despicable, disgusting of ways. Why? Because they forgot about Allah. Allah caused them forget about themselves. What it means to be a human being. Empathy is gone. People cannot feel when they see pictures of children. They can't feel. They literally cannot feel anymore. They don't know what that is, what suffering is, inability to experience empathy, and perpetuating, even when we're talking the worst of terms in this modern world, genocide. And they can't feel, they can't see, because what? They've displaced this worldview. And you say, wait a minute, this is being done by people who also proclaim religion. No. And this is a debate that goes on in that community now between some of religious figures. And what are they saying, those who are opposed to what is happening? They are saying, no, this is not the religion. You actually have, even though you say with your tongue, you have displaced God from the picture, and what have you put? The state. The state. You worship the state. If you ever wondered sometimes when you hear these, I used to hear these khutbahs when I was young, I didn't understand what it was. People used to say, worshiping the state. I said, what does that mean? Now I'm seeing with my eyes what that means and what that could result in. And that's what people have. Right? We have one of these rabbis was discussing, and he said that's what happened. The golden calf that Moses and his followers, that Moses' followers were worshiping, was not Allah, was the golden calf. They said the golden calf of today is the state. That's first and foremost. People wondering what's going on over there. What's the fundamental problem? It's what the state demands. When you create a state like that, it has demands. It has demands. There is no other way for that country to behave except in the way it's behaving, because that's what the state demands. That's what they created. The structure in which they created, it has no other way but the people to behave in that way. That's why this concept of shirk and tawheed is so important. Because when you worship Allah, and not other than Allah, there is an expectation of how you're going to behave and conduct your affairs, as set down by Allah, by His prophets, by His messengers. That's going to make the difference. And that's what you see, the difference. But when you have the false God, when you associate partners with Allah, when you take lords and take as your Lord rabbis and priests, and not texts of what God wants from you, of not God Himself, these verses should resonate with you now, to understand what can happen. In our deen, walhamdulillah, we have a book, we have a teacher, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Other than those two, we don't take 100%. In spite of the greatness of our ulama and scholars, we never take them as lords. And we know that every alim and scholar, when they say something, they can be challenged by the congregation based upon text. They can't just speak freely. People are so distraught about what we're hearing coming out of Alabama today. As if their deen, some of them are being shaken. Why? Why? Only if you take even your teachers or imams or sheikhs as lords, then you're going to be shaken. But if you take Allah as your Lord, the Prophet ﷺ as the perfected teacher and communicator of Allah Ta'ala and what He wants from us, everybody else and everything else is subject to error. And what you see, in fact, in a religion or other religions around us, when people have raised what Allah warned us not to do, their teachers, those who supposedly have access to the scripture, when they take them as the authority and not Allah and His message as the authority, they can justify anything they want. Because at the end of the day, you're taking man as your authority. So brothers and sisters, when we talk about Tawheed and Shirk, I just wanted to just touch on that aspect. That looking at the world in which we're living, that's where we are. And this can give us an understanding of why things are happening the way they're happening. People switching genders one to the other, this, that. Why? Because man is the criterion. And so sometimes we're talking a different language with our classmates, maybe our professors, because they're coming from this understanding that man is the criterion. And you're coming with them with what? God is the criterion. What He wants is the criterion. It's two different worldviews. Conversations like this would have been very different 300 years ago between even other faith communities, because whatever religion they were, they understood the concept of the divine, and however they understood that was the authority. So you would have debates and discussions on what the divine wanted of us, but there would be a common language, a common understanding. But ever since we entered into this world, and as the Muslim world has also been affected by this, the whole entire world, that's just the reality of the world. But you have to understand that reality and what it is, and then inshallah ta'ala understand then where you are placed, and what is your guidance, and what is central to your life. Because then inshallah ta'ala that will allow you to take on the struggles that are going to come. One last thing I just wanted to mention as a side note. The masajid in New Jersey have been meeting for this past year. Alhamdulillah, we've been trying to get together even more so and more formalized. And so I was just share with you something that was agreed upon. We had about 30, 40 masajid just last week meeting together of priorities for the community. And one of the things we spoke about, so my job is to deliver it to you as well, is the importance of supporting college students in our state. There are 14 private universities in New Jersey. There are 11 public universities with MSAs, etc. The masajid, inshallah ta'ala, are going to be making more of a coordinated effort of providing resources and support from whatever the students need. Whatever the students need. Alhamdulillah, you guys have been blessed here. We have silver, we have the chaplaincy, etc. But other universities, colleges, they don't have that, right? So inshallah ta'ala, but it just as an NBIC, because we're supposed to be, an ISCJ as well, MCMC, they're here as well in the area. These masajid utilize us for resources, things you need to help you through your college years. Why is that important? Because ultimately, so much change in how we do the world relies on you. Relies on you. This is the history that we see in this country and throughout the world, that many movements and many changes took place at the college campuses. So we're not here to tell you what to do. MashaAllah, you guys are doing amazing work already. But whatever you need for support, please feel free. I know at MBIC, you come to us in whatever capacity. You need assistance and help. We're willing to be there, inshallah ta'ala, and hopefully the other MSAs will also be getting these messages from the local masajid in their area to provide that support as well, inshallah ta'ala. So without further ado, inshallah ta'ala, we'll listen to our beloved Shaykh, inshallah ta'ala.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. بسم الله الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ولا أما بعد. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي واجعل لي وزيرا من أهلي آمين يا رب العالمين. So first of all, Jazakumullah khairan habibana. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you for such a beautiful, beautiful topic. You didn't use any technical terms, but you explained the essence of Tawheed and how ugly the shirk is. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward you and bless you for this easy explanation, alhamdulillah. So initially I was thinking to talk to you about Tawheed versus shirk. But I'm coming from Dallas. So throughout my flight I was thinking I should change my topic and I should discuss something else. I'll take the point from him, explain shirk versus Tawheed in 5 minutes how he explained, and then let's talk about worshipping Allah versus worshipping a sheikh. Should we speak about that? Because maybe you are exposed to this for the first time. If you are not, then don't seek. As an imam in this field, in this country for the last 15 years, it's now, unfortunately, it's more often. So how do you handle yourself? So let's talk about that. And before that, let's conclude where Sheikh have beautifully explained the essence of Tawheed, the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that in the West you have everything except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As someone asked me, I was in Saudi in July, and I was in the walima, the Saudi walima, typical Saudi walima. So they asked me, Sheikh Asif, كيف رأيت أمريكا? How did you see America? How did you find America? So I said, قد رأيت كل شيء في أمريكا إلا الله. I saw in America everything except Allah. Cars, gadget, technologies. But I couldn't find Allah. Okay, just giving you some statistics before we can start the serious discussion. Last 125 years for the Euro-American region were the most secular, yes or no? The least religious, yes or no? Okay. Last 125 years for America and Europe, how many people died by divorce started in Europe and America for non-religious reasons? Tell me. Give me any number.
50 to 100 million.
50 million? Okay. Can you be less generous? Increase the number?
100 million.
A little more? 110 million. How many?
110 million.
According to, not Maulvi or Sheikh or Allama, according to William Kavanagh, a Catholic theologian, writes in his book, The Myth of Religious Violence. You remove God and his message from politics, it became more violent. First World War alone, 38 million people died in Europe. Well, actually, they were Europeans, so they don't die, they were killed. It's Palestinian people who are dead usually. Okay. Economics. You remove the God from economics, right? Now there is no God in economics, right? All people see is their capitalism, their profit. How many people die out of the hunger in 2021? According to WHO, 9 million people in the entire world died out of hunger. Do we have less resources? The answer is no. We do not have, we have resources to cater the need of the people, but we don't have resources to cater the greed of the people. Do you agree? Once you remove God from politics, they become more violent. Once you remove God from economics, it become more violent. Now what's left in our public sphere? Social life. What about marriages? Do you think marriages are healthy? You know the divorce rate, right? Forbes 2021, 43% divorce rate in America. Cheating rate is skyrocketed. Can you give me numbers of fatherless child in America? Numbers, not percentage, numbers. Don't Google it. I can see some of you are Googling it. You will get 17.8, I know, 17.18 million kids in America are fatherless. Now you can Google it and confirm. How many? 18 million kids. And you know the consequences. More high school dropout will come from the fatherless background. More suicide will going to come out of fatherless background. More issues will come. When you remove God from social life, from family life, from economics, from politics, you will have more issues, absolutely. Because He is the creator. Once you remove His guidance from your life, you will struggle consistently. Then you will remove the God and God's message from language also. How do we define success? From God perspective or from human perspective? Okay, I'm asking you something very sensitive, but because it's an MSA, this is the only place where I can ask. I cannot ask in Jummah khutbah. We have removed God from the definition of safe sex. Now for us, safe sex for a normal psychotherapist will be consent and contraceptives. But for us, it will still not be safe to have a consensual relationship before marriage, because it will destroy our akhirah. It's not safe. But even we remove the God from language, that's the essence, ocean of shirk we are living in. We have reduced God only into the synagogue and mosque and churches. That's the essence of secularism. So he explained in the beautiful way. My one request to all of you, whichever, whether you are at work, college, inshallah you will soon going to get married, inshallah, bismillah. Just try to bring Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala back in your life, because the society is trying to reduce the role of Allah's guidance. All you need to do as a Muslim is to bring back Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in your life. And it will help you so much. You have to love your parents and spouse and kids for Allah, not for who they are. Because God forbid, if your spouse, if your parents disappoint you, you have Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's easy to handle. But if you're loving your spouse, your parents, your friends for who they are, if they will disappoint you, and if you don't have Allah in your life, it will be very difficult to move on. So bring Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you will become a better person by being a good servant and slave to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Is that okay? Okay, now let's discuss, inshallah, a little sensitive topic. And I want to hear from you. First, let's see 2-3 stories from Sirah. And then I do want to hear from you also, inshallah ta'ala. So I just want to take you back at the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When he came in 23 years, he delivered a message. Everyone in the Arabian Peninsula at the end, almost all of them accepted Islam at the end. And he was giving his final sermon, his famous final sermon. And I want you to pay attention. He said this to the Sahaba. He says, أَيُّهَا النَّاسِ اسْمَعُوا قَوْلِي فَإِنِّي لَا أَدْرِي لَعَلِّي لَا أَلْقَاكُمْ بَعْدَ عَامِ هَذَا. O people, listen from me, because I don't think so that we'll meet again next year. What he's referencing? That he will die soon. Because a messenger's role is to deliver a message. Once he delivered the message, once he established the message, then his job was about to complete. Just 5 days before he will die. So he will die on Monday. 5 days before is Wednesday, okay? Wednesday, he went to lead Salatul Zuhr, and Sahabas were waiting for him. How many days before? Okay, remember this. So Sahabas were waiting for Salatul Zuhr. He came, and interestingly, instead of leading Salah, he climbed the mimbar and he sat on the mimbar. So Sahabas, they came and they sat around him. And then he said these things. First he said, لعنة الله على اليهود والنصارى اتخذ قبور أنبيائهم مساجد يحذر ما صنعوا. May Allah destroy all the faith-based communities, including Jews and Christians, who exaggerated in the status of their prophets. They idolized the prophet's grave. Now they are worshipping their prophet's grave, not Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why he said this 5 days before he's dying? Are you getting it? If anyone in our Muslim ummah who deserves to be worshipped, even though we don't worship any human being, if there is, let's say 1%, there's a possibility, that would be Rasulullah. He knew that the celebrity status have destroyed the nations before. They led them to shirk. And he's saying, don't do this with me. يُحَذِّرُ مَا صَنَعُوا. He warned people to do this with my grave. Okay, listen to another hadith. Then he says, he made dua in what time of Malik? Allahumma la taj'al qabri wathana. Oh Allah, do not make my grave a idol, so that they will come and worship. Muslims will come and worship. Don't do this. So his message was clear. After me, you have to worship Allah, not worship me. Okay? Then he offered Salatul Zuhr. And after Salatul Zuhr, what happened? He climbed the mimbar again. And then at this time when he climbed the mimbar, he sat on the mimbar and he said few things. And one of those things is, إِنَّ عَبْدًا خَيَّرَ اللَّهُ بَيْنَ أَن يُؤْتِيَهُ مِنْ زَهْرَةِ الدُّنْيَا مَا شَاءَ وَبَيْنَ مَا عِنْدَهُ فَاخْتَارَ مَا عِنْدَهُ. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had given one of his servants 2 options. whether to choose from this dunya or to choose akhirah, and that servant have chosen akhirah. He finished his speech. Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu started crying. And Abu Sa'id al-Khudri radiallahu anhu said, we initially said that why he's crying, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is talking about a random person. Later on we realized that actually Rasulullah was speaking about himself. So Abu Bakr was the first one who understood what Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is saying. This shows the intelligence. By the way, later on, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam could not lead the salah because of the disease. So he appointed Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu to almost lead 17 salawat while he was present, but he could not lead 17 prayers. It was Monday, around Fajr time. Sahabas were led by Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu. I will connect all this to this topic, okay? During the prayer, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had some energy. So if you have been into the Masjid al-Nabi, you have seen that from his original house, what his house was, he removed the curtain and he saw the Sahaba are praying and Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu is leading them. The hadith says when Rasulullah did that, Sahabas, even though they were in prayers, but they could see Rasulullah is moving the curtain, they were happy during the prayer. And Rasulullah pointed them out, don't break your salah out of the joy, continue with your salah, and he smiled. Because for a good leader, whether I'm leading or someone else is leading, as long as mission is being flourishing, that's a good sign. For a narcissistic leader, the priorities are different. And then Rasulullah smiled and then he closed the curtain. And then he was not alive for the next prayer. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Then we know this, subhanAllah, once he passed away, there was a lot of emotional reaction from different Sahaba. Different Sahabas, especially one of them was Umar ibn Khattab, he didn't even know how to digest this information properly, emotionally. So, Anas radiallahu anhu, like on another occasion, he said that one of the darkest day in the history of Medina was when Rasulullah passed away. Bilal radiallahu anhu is promising, I won't give azan after today. Their emotional reactions. Emotionally, how can I say, Ashhadu anna Muhammad Rasulullah? Well, Muhammad Rasulullah is not there. So you have to imagine, he's the more beloved to all of us, and especially to Sahaba, more than their family members. It's happening in front of them. And you know, this Umar radiallahu anhu gave an emotional response that no one should say that Rasulullah passed away, otherwise I will take my sword. So no one even dared to talk to Umar ibn Khattab that this happened. But then Abu Bakr Siddiq came. Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu went to the member and he said something which I want you to know, and then we will start the discussion, inshallah. Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu went inside where Rasulullah's body was, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He kissed his forehead and he said to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Wallahi mata Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that no doubt Rasulullah passed away, to calm Umar radiallahu anhu down. And then he climbed the member. So the people who were surrounded Umar radiallahu anhu, they actually went close to Abu Bakr Siddiq. So Umar, out of respect, also he went close to Abu Bakr Siddiq. And then Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu said this, and that's where we will start today's discussion about this topic. Very, inshallah, in 5-10 minutes, inshallah. He says, Man kana ya'budullah fa inna Allah hayy la yamut. Whoever worship Allah, he should know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is ever living. وَمَنْ كَانَ يَعْبُدُ مُحَمَّدٍ فَإِنَّ مُحَمَّدْ قَدْ مَاتَ. And whoever worships Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he should know that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam passed away. So your loyalty, your sincerity, your dedication should be to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not to any individual. I just want you to pay close attention to this. Just very close attention to this. After Rasulullah passed away, did Islam expanded? Absolutely. Did mission expanded? Did idea of Islam expanded so much so that we are in New Jersey here, we are actually discussing about Islam and we are the followers of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So he was a successful leader, that after his demise, his mission expanded, and still we are loving him and loving his companions. What are we learning from this? There are many lessons, but I will just mention 3. First, what are the lessons for individual? We have to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We do not have to worship any individual. If worshipping Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is not permissible, then what about worshipping Sheikh? What about worshipping Imam? What about worshipping male speaker or female speaker who have just collapsed. They were just messenger, they connected us to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that's it. One of my teachers, Sheikh Hatim al-Hajj, he said this, he's here in New Jersey, right? He said this in one of his durus, I guess 10 years ago. If you know that one of your favorite speaker, favorite imam, favorite sheikh have become atheists, it should not bother you except that you are worried for his akhirah. But for your connection to Allah, that should not bother you. You should just make dua for him, but he have connected you to Allah, and that's it. Because in Islam, we don't have intermediaries. I think you mentioned this. We have Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We don't even have clergy system like the clergy system other religions have. We have direct relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You know, there is an ayah in the Quran. Actually, there is Arabic poetry also. The poetry says, لو أن الدنيا تدوم لأهلها لكان رسول الله حيا وباقيا. That if dunya will stay forever, then you won't have Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam leaving this dunya. Everything in this dunya leaves. Now, why I'm saying this? You will see this, that imams will come and go. I was here in New Jersey for 5 years. I had to leave. Then I was in Massachusetts. I left. Now I'm in Dallas. Scholars will come and go. Celebrities will rise and they will fall. Our dedication, our loyalty, our sincerity should be towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. Rather, if your heart is too much attached to one individual and one shaykh, then it's a sign of an unhealthy heart. Because either you can have love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, love of creation in your heart. If someone benefited you, make dua for him or her. But eventually your heart should be emotionally attached only to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's very important point. That's the first thing, what we should do from individual angle. And this will make us humble, right? If I think, how many of you are active in MSA? Raise your hand. Okay. If you are thinking MSA, brothers and sisters, and you all have this ego, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us humble, say Ameen. If you're thinking right now, you know, I'm in the MSA board right now, if I will leave the MSA, this building will collapse. I'm so important person, man. This ummah will collapse if Asif Irani will going to go somewhere. This ummah was served before Asif Irani was in his diapers. And this ummah will flourish and thrive even once we will be decomposed in our grave. Decomposed completely. This ummah is bigger than you. Grow up. Be humble. And subhanAllah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala teaches us lessons sometimes so that we can learn from the mistakes of others. Don't wait for the time when you have to learn from your mistakes. Wallahu musta'an. This also shows us the guideline of gender interaction. The shaitan of desires is with everyone. Is with everyone. I often say this many times. You idolize these speakers who are giving the workshops of how to be a good husband, how to be a good wife, how to be a nice son and daughter. Sometimes these speakers themselves have more issues than you. You don't even know. They just know how to speak. Sometimes they have more issues. So always attach yourself directly to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. From the community level, what can be done? You know, I have seen this, subhanAllah, when the Muslim community becomes corrupt, they tend to obsess with individuals more than the message. By the way, this is part of even the Western culture, pop culture, that you are worshipping your celebrity, your pop star, and this have come even in, subhanAllah, in our dawah mode also. So we should train ourselves not to do that. But whether it's imam or it's sheikh or a speaker, we should remind ourselves that we are harming him and harming ourselves and harming community if we are just overloading him or her with commitments. This is extremely important. Respect, but at the same time, don't idolize them. I'll just say final reflection on this. Accountability. Who are you to accountable a sheikh? Well, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam gave me this authority as an imam. No one is above Sharia. No one is above Islamic law. You have a complete right to disagree with me. You have a complete right to hold me accountable. Why I'm saying this, I'll tell you just one hadith, because let's open it up for Q&A, inshallah. I won't really teach three, but let's say one hadith. In Sahih Bukhari, you know Ma'az radiallahu anhu, a Sahaba? It was Sahaba, very good Sahaba, mashallah, very knowledgeable. He was leading Salatul Fajr. And I want you to pay close attention, especially my brothers and sisters in MSA who are active in activism or public speaking workshop, or if you want to become a khatib or da'i, this is very important for you. So, the hadith says he was leading Salatul Fajr, and a person was praying behind him. And during the salah, he broke his salah and he went to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This hadith is in Bukhari. And then when he went to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he actually said, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, so and so companion is stopping me to pray Salatul Fajr. Rasulullah said, what happened? He says, because he's making salah long, I cannot pray in such a long salah. The hadith says, and I just want to read the wordings of the hadith. He says, فَمَا رَأَيْتُ النَّبِي صلى الله عليه وسلم غَضِبًا فِي مَوْعِزَةٍ قَطُّ أَشَدَّ مِمَّا غَضِبَ يَوْمَئِذٍ. He says, on that day, the narrator says, I did not see Rasulullah getting more angry than on that day. He was angry on Imam, or he was angry on the person who broke the salah because salah was long? Tell me.
Imam.
He called Ma'az, call Imam. Then Imam came and he said this, and I want you to write this somewhere. Is this MSA office or is it Rutgers thing?
Rutgers.
Oh, Rutgers thing, okay. Then don't do it. But maybe start a text on the MSA WhatsApp group. Ya ayyuhan nas inna minkum munaffirin. Ya ayyuhan nas inna minkum munaffirin. Oh, you people who are leading the people, whether it's Imam in this case or any leader in Muslim community, why you are pushing people away from Islam by your longer prayers. Why I'm telling you this? Think about it. If Rasulullah ﷺ did not like the Imam pushing away people just because he's making salah long, which is good thing, then what will be the situation of Rasulullah ﷺ when he will face a Imam or a leader because of his or her actions, horrible actions, the confused Muslim generation will go away from Islam. Can you internalize this? If Rasulullah was the most angry, narrator says, I never saw Rasulullah more angrier than on that day, even though he was just making salah longer. Did you feel a responsibility? And I'm not talking about only Imam there. We all have the face of Musa but heart of Fir'aun. Let's accept it. Sometimes we hide our Pharaonic heart in the nice beards and hijab, right? It's time to fix that. It's time to fix that. Don't go into the self-righteous mode when you are talking about someone else. Try to take example from that so that eventually we can become better, because we have many flaws also. Right? What can be done? I don't know, I'm not in New Jersey anymore, but as Sheikh Wallah, it's one of the great things I heard. When I was in New Jersey, we had only 4 masajid working together. And now, mashallah, he was at 40 masajid now? Mashallah. This is such a great development, mashallah. I think you guys need to go and talk to your masajid, talk to your Islamic school, even have a protocol in Rutgers MSA. I know you guys have some gender interaction issues. In 2016, when I was here, 2024, you were around maybe teenagers at that time, pre-teen. I taught a workshop, 5-hour workshop on gender interaction. I still remember that. This is the first place where I started. And I remember the kinds of question which was coming, subhanAllah. I know you have issues. Try to fix that. Because these are the issues which usually happen when you don't pay attention to gender interactions. And don't think you are exempted. Just because you are working in the MSA board, you are Shaykhul Islam, Mufti al-Diyar. No. You actually might be more conducive for the attacks of shaitan, because you might fool yourself that I'm doing something for the sake of Allah so I can exempt myself. No. Follow a strict protocol, at least the protocol of not meeting someone in seclusion and not touching each other. The other things are nuanced, but these 2 things are red line, so that no one can harass anyone, and we can have a comfortable space, a professional way of communicating with each other, inshallah ta'ala. Lot more can be said about this, but I hope that inshallah these words were going to connect us, because we are here to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not to worship any of the mashayikh or the speakers. With that, inshallah, if there's any question for the sheikh or for myself, inshallah, please. I don't know the forum right now, by the way.
Jazakallah khair to both of our speakers. So I think there's a QR code going around, right? So you guys can scan that and submit your questions there. But we're also taking questions like in person too. So if you have a question, you can just go ahead and shout it out right now.
Did someone say that a really active protest is haram because someone might look at it and be like, these Muslims are very, very aggressive?
You know, one of the, going back to our framework, right? So one of the things I think maybe you guys were exposed to this past year was we're actively involved in protests. You know, you're seeing other groups out there who have good intention and have good hearts because they're seeing
what is taking place and they're trying to stop it. And this is important to recognize that not only in terms of your obligation to try to address a wrong, and we'll get to the protest in a minute, as being an obligation you have, but doing it in a way which is also dictated by the Sharia, right? Tawhidic worldview. And so I'm sure some of you have seen in working with other groups, yeah, let's do A, B, C, and then all of a sudden they're like D, E, F, and you're like, right? Why? Why? They're trying to do something, but they're coming from that different perspective of, again, where their criterion for doing right and forbidding evil is what? Determined by men. This is again another example. كنتم خير أمة أخرجت للناس تأمرون بالمعروف وتنهون عن المنكر وتؤمنون بالله. So what are they doing? Enjoining the good. Inshallah ta'ala, they're trying to do good. They're trying to stop the evil. But what are they missing? وتؤمنون بالله. The belief in Allah. Right? How important that is. Because it can even misguide you in how you're trying to address the wrong. So we saw this, right? Amazing people doing amazing things, but some of it also problematic. You know, shutting down a ship or shutting down Congress, right, is one thing. Shutting down a bridge where people are going to work, that's another, right? Because they don't have guardrails. And so I'm sure many of you saw there, and instinctively, hopefully many of you saw, were like, something seems to be across the line here. People have to get to work. Maybe there's an emergency. Maybe they're disturbing people's lives. Maybe it even resulted in somebody dying or ambulance couldn't get through. All of these things because we're guided by Sharia. Stopping a ship, sending arms and protesting whatever, this and that, etc., to not send arms is one thing. Right? Shutting down airports, where people maybe have to get home, this and that, whatever. It's another level. Again, people, I don't want to criticize in terms of their intention is to do good. A lot of these other groups, they're coming from different perspectives, but, you know, and they come from different, maybe humanistic perspectives or certain ideological things or whatever it is. The desire is there, but when you don't have guidelines, so yes, there is guidelines in terms of what you should be addressing as wrong and your obligation to stop it, but there is also guidelines in how you go about doing that. And that's where we always have to be in the middle of that. That's why it's important, I think, that Muslims take the initiative to be the leaders of these groups, because they don't know. But their hearts are in the right place. but they don't necessarily have guidance on what to do. Oftentimes I've been, during these whole protesting, I must have went through maybe 15, 16, from New York all the way down to DC, etc., the various encampments. And you see different groups leading different things, and some Muslim presence was more, some less. Some was ultra left, some was ultra right. It was interesting to kind of see the dynamic depending on the university in each place. So there's guidelines. Now, one of the tools that we have in the United States is to protest. In other words, to make your voice heard. It's not the only way. This is what we have to understand too. The reality is we have to internalize everyone in here is paying to kill children. Everyone in here is paying to kill children. Our parents are paying to kill children. I am paying to kill children. This is not some far off thing. I'm not sitting in Pakistan watching what's going on in America. No, I am actively involved. Hopefully, Allah Ta'ala has blessed me that at least I am doing so unwillingly. Allah Ta'ala will hold me so unwillingly. But we have to internalize it. Because once you internalize that, I want to stop paying to kill children. So I'm going to try to do whatever I can. We just had this election. I know some of you probably, what's the point? Well, we're going to be asking for the past 6 months. I'll tell you the point. At one level, for you to go out and vote, register your objection. You're paying to kill people. And you can't even get up to vote and at least register an objection to have your voice count, that at least I object. I mean, oh, it's not going to do this and that. Yeah, maybe it won't. But at the minimum it registers, I spoke out. And it was registered somewhere. Sitting at home, there's no registration, there's no objection. Protests. I'm not going to get into whether you should protest or not. But those who criticize protests, again, done within a spectrum, says it won't do anything. Fine. What are you doing? If you're going to sit there and criticize those who are going out in your community to protest and watch a Netflix series, there's a problem. Because now you feel good about yourself. I'm not with those people who are violating something. But what are you doing? Everybody can do something. Did you spend the day in Dua where everybody's protesting? Did you spend time reading Surah Yasin on those who are deceased? Did you try to do something? The whole thing is to try to do something. Why are we trying to do something? Because we are paying for it. Figure out a way to stop. So one way is through protests. Sometimes these protests get out of hand. We saw that. That's not where we play. That's not where we go out of hand. We do our objection. Make your voice at least heard. It's one way in which we have to make the voice heard that we object. There's other ways too. One of the things, for example, I think sometimes people don't realize is when this protest movement, I'm sure some of you saw that, there's only one way among certain groups. On the streets, that's it. No. Everybody takes MLK as their example in the civil rights movement. The weekend that Martin Luther King was in Selma, protesting on the bridge, getting beaten down and eaten by dogs, the same weekend, he was in the White House. Literally the same weekend. Trying to stop the oppression. Sometimes people say you can't go talk to the politician, you can't go. If you're going with truth and to speak truth to power, etc., you should go. It's not all or nothing. We have to figure out as a community, as Americans, to stop paying for this. And there's many different avenues we have. It's not all one. Within our guidelines of Sharia, what is acceptable and what is not. So in terms of, yes, sometimes, like I said, the protest, maybe people can be objecting. How are things going? Are there educational ways of doing that? Or is education part of the process? If it's just shouting and yelling and there's no education, think about ways in which you can enhance those types of activities, right? And be more effective. Don't rely on what's standard out. There's all sorts of things. You guys are doing it around here. My son, you guys are doing amazing things at the student government level.
comments that I see, mashallah, because you guys are doing a lot. It's all levels. Everybody should feel obligated to do something, right? And you should feel that obligation. I have to do something, right? Like I said, protest is not your thing, whatever, no problem. If you're not, Allah guide those who are not protesting, and then you do whatever you're doing, whether it's writing a letter, or calling a congressman, or making dua, or reading Quran, etc. But just let's be careful of being so critical of other activism that results in Shaitan whispers and literally we do nothing. And that's oftentimes, you may find yourself, that's what you're doing, right? This is what Sheikh Asif was saying in terms of also your self-reflection. Stop always judging and looking at others. How do I, what am I doing for that, inshallah?
Jazakallah khair. If anyone else has any more in-person questions, yeah, just go ahead.
This is a question for you. Living in a godless society where everyone is like worshiping their desires, how does one, like a college student like us, find God? Or like, what's the first step to that journey?
So I just want to repeat the question, confirm. Give me thumbs up if that is what you asked. In the society where everyone is worshipping their desires, how we can find Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How we can find the desire who can seek Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Let's put it that way, right? Uqsimullah Sheikh Muhammad Shala knows I taught 8-hour workshop on this. My entire book on postmodernity was actually on this topic, about centered around feeling and this argument. But for young people, I would use a very simple language. How many of you know what instant gratification is? What is instant gratification? Now, sisters, you raise your hand, so please tell me. Tell me, please. Instant gratify our desires. That's a big problem here, right? You are, by the way, our entire nation, I'm talking about America, our entire nation is becoming a slave of their desires. And they just want to instantly, immediately gratified. And I'll tell you how psychologists would recommend to solve this and what Islamic way of solving that, inshallah. How psychologists would, first of all, what is instant gratification? You are sleeping, Salat al-Fajr time is coming. What's the first thing you would do if you are impacted with instant gratification? Snooze until sunrise, and then you will wake up. You instantly gratify desires to sleep more, but you could have prayed Salat al-Fajr for a long-term benefit. At work, at school, instead of checking your cell phone and Instagram and TikTok 10 times in 1 minute, you instantly gratify when you do this. Instead of that, you could have just waited for a long-term benefit of doing more research, studying properly. That's instant gratification. Similarly, some of the young brothers and sisters, they have some addiction, whether through drugs or through websites. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect all of us and help all of us. Ameen ya Rabb. What you do in those things, you immediately gratify your desires without thinking of the long-term consequences. This is instant gratification. So when you have a civilization which is worshipping their desires, which is enslaving itself to its desire, we can say that there is no other solution than instant gratification they will go towards. Now, how to solve this? If you ask any therapist, if they are therapists who are coming from a non-Islamic worldview, they were going to say the solution to that is delayed gratification. What is delayed gratification?
Just do it later.
Just delay it. If you want something, but train yourself, train your muscles, train your feeling muscle, that I don't want it right now, I will delay it. You are hungry, and let's say your thirsty water is there, but you will delay gratification. Choose delayed gratification or instant gratification. So you are teaching yourself, I don't want this right now. I'm delaying it. This can work sometime, and I usually believe that we should definitely take benefit from psychological researches, but add Islam into it. Because the problem is, if you are taking Freudist worldview, then it will be very different than the Islamic worldview because of a few obvious reasons. So how can we add? You add Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in your solving of instant gratification. Not all my feelings are beneficial for me. Some of my feelings might be harmful for me. Who is going to tell me? I need to have some moral calculus, moral compass, which he was saying, that add Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala into your picture. Add akhirah into your picture, because modern world has removed akhirah also. if I will delay this right now, if I won't instantly gratify by looking at that website or by consuming these drugs or by doing something which is inappropriate, eventually I'm going to help myself not only in dunya to become a better disciplined person, but even in akhirah, I'll get a reward for it. So slowly and gradually you will going to, by the way, we have now people monetizing on this particular instant gratification. You need to skip ad on YouTube, pay $16.99 per month. That's monetization on instant gratification, right? We don't even know we are fooled and enslaved by these things after enslaving our desires and feeling to this entire civilization. So it's extremely important. Bring back Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to control your feelings. Always listen to your feelings, but remember this, that your feelings are not always who you are. Because we in Islam, we don't define or identify ourselves with our feeling. This is a very heavy word. I want you to pay close attention. In Islam, I don't identify myself as my feelings. I want Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to identify me, and then I'm going to see based on His guidance which of the feelings are blameworthy and which of the feelings are praiseworthy. In the modern worldview, what they have taught, if you are feeling for something, go for it, Habibi. That's for who you are. Right? So you have to go back and then bring Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and then see from His guidance which feeling is acceptable and which feeling is amendable.
Jazakallah khair. I'll take a question from the forum. It says, how do we stay content with Allah's plan when it is the opposite of ours?
Just this ties into what Sheikh Asif had just mentioned. It's also understanding in terms of this, the nature of who we are. So, for example, back to our earlier discussion, we're taught a lot about freedom, right? And freedom being the ultimate good, right? And this whole nation, freedom, was the foundation. Founding fathers spoke about this. Again, they're coming from an Enlightenment perspective. So for them, their idea of freedom was basically from external restraint, which is one aspect of freedom. But this is a non-prophetic concept, meaning, or incomplete, I should say, incomplete concept of freedom. Yes, the Prophet spoke about being free from external oppression, right? Freedom to choose. The Quran tells us this, in the most fundamental thing, your worldview, there is no compulsion in it. You have freedom to choose. La ikraha fi din. There is no compulsion in religion. Freedom to choose. So you should have an environment where people have the ability to choose, right? That's a good thing. But where the philosophers end and the prophets come in is they also spoke about internal freedom, right? Internal freedom. That freedom to choose whatever you want, if it is not, as he had mentioned, the Pharaoh inside, the tyrant that you have inside, you are controlled by that. So that's why some of the ulama said, the reality actually of the human being is you're a slave. You're a slave. There's a lot. That's just the reality. You've been created a slave. The only question is, what are you a slave to? The nature of a human being is to be a slave. So you're either a slave to Allah, meaning that you surrender your will and your desire to what He wants, right? Muslim is the idea of surrender. Or you're going to find yourself as what? A slave to literally everything else. As he mentioned, the desires. People trying to understand what the heck was going on with P. Diddy and his crew. Right? Were they free? They have money. They have talent. They have power. They have access. Everything that you think sets you free. And what? Complete slave to their base desires, lack of total control, and doing some of the most despicable things we hear about, and disgusting things. Are they free? They haven't been able to free themselves from their internal desires and going for instant gratification, etc. In fact, they're just a slave to everything and everyone else. So the question is for ourselves, is just who you want to be a slave to. So in trying to realign ourselves with being a slave to Allah, what that means. There's another thing, by the way, I think just in terms of just what this last year revealed to me, is the slave of fear. Fear. It's very interesting. We're told off so many times in the Quran, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu ittaqullah. And yes, and now we're scared to sometimes say fear. We say conscious of Allah, but part of taqwa is actually fear. What do you find in another community? What transpired? Those who have been dealing maybe with interfaith relations over the years. What took place? They actually created a culture and a people who are perpetually in fear that someone's coming for them. Their destruction, the fear of this, fear of that. There's an entire nation over there, literally, they're fearful of everything. And they've created this culture because it allowed for the state to exist if everybody was scared that everybody's coming for you. And now you see people are just willing to lash out. Now you understand when he says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu ittaqullah. Fear Allah. Otherwise what? You're going to fear everything and anything else. And it can push you, even if you're a good person, to do the most absurd and disgusting and despicable actions. Out of fear. Driven by fear. That's why Allah's telling you, fear Him. Because that's going to guide you in how you conduct yourself. And when you fear Him and what He thinks about you, how liberating that is. Nobody's going to push you from your position of principle. Because you don't care what the people think. So you can become a slave to your fears. But if you redirect that to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so our desires, our fears, all these things that we see, direct them to Allah and you will find it liberating. And actually freedom in the true sense becomes achieved. I always remember when I was young, the lesson I learned from Bill Clinton, if those who know. The most powerful man in the world. The most powerful man in the world was literally a slave between what was between his legs and almost cost him his career, his family, his back, everything. Because he was actually a slave. You think he has power, he's free, he can do what he wants. He couldn't control himself. What kind of freedom is that? It's such a simple thing. That was when I was young. Now you're seeing even more, much more. Epstein and Diddy and these complete slaves. And they live in this perpetual just pursuing all of this stuff. So inshallah ta'ala, if we just redirect our principles, that's what I'm saying. You guys have that I didn't have, that Sheikh didn't have when we were younger. You can actually see now manifest the ugliness and the fakeness of all of these things. We had to wait sometimes for National Enquirer to show us that the celebrities really didn't look like that. Instantaneously, you know it's all. We had to see a National Enquirer report about somebody doing something or whatever. It wasn't as glorious and always putting on a smile on television. Now, it's all been exposed. So you're seeing firsthand exactly what Allah Ta'ala tells us the result of these other things is actually all facade. You're actually seeing it. We had to believe it was a facade. But actually you're seeing it. The facade. So in that sense, it's a lot easier to appreciate the teachings we have been given and the blessings we have been given through those teachings. Inshallah ta'ala.
So these two questions are kind of similar, so I'm just going to combine them. So first one is, how do you advise friends and family that are obsessed with certain speakers to detach from them? And then similarly, what is the balance between adab, love, and shirk when it comes to reverence of big ulama of the past?
Okay. So this is a loaded question. It requires a lot of detailed discussion, but I will speak generally, not about this particular incident. There are a few cases where, I'm just speaking generally, no specifics, okay? Child molestation or cheating the spouse, and if this person, whether a brother or sister, is known for morality, religious teaching in the community, then obviously it should be very skeptical about taking knowledge or deen from this individual, even if they come back, but the cases are proved, because our Sharia teaches that a person, individual, is innocent until they're good. So there is a qaida, by default, you have to prove the other person has done something, and now legal, criminal investigation, whatever is going on. So we should not even be premature to spread the universe. So that's just one thing. I'm talking about general cases, okay? Then there are cases where these sins might not reach at that level, then it's up to you. So I have seen some scholars, unfortunately, they backbite. And backbiting is not a small sin. Unfortunately, because I'm in that field, I know. And I have done so many bad things also, but I'm just saying, I was just talking to Sheikh Muhammad actually, that I was frustrating that one group of scholars was saying this about other group of scholars in one of the Telegram groups. Should I or should you stop taking knowledge from them, let's say if they are expert in hadith? Should you stop taking knowledge from them because that's what they're doing backbiting? The answer is no, but you should be very careful when they're talking about other scholars. You should find out that actually why they're speaking like that. Because many times you are a young person, by the way, I don't want to just crush your ego, sometimes it's necessary. Young age is the age of intellectual disability. Okay? So you'll take everything from your scholar, from your sheikh, and idolize him. No. So if that kind of scholar is teaching you, who is bashing the scholars left and right, then take whatever you can from his field, or from her field, but don't take the other maybe contamination which he or she is trying to put into your mind. So that's one thing. Have a clear job. One of the other aspects is that motivational speakers who are on YouTube are good for motivation, not for Islamic knowledge. Islamic knowledge should come from your local scholarship. Try to go to your local scholar. MashaAllah, you are in New Jersey. You have so many scholars, MashaAllah. You have Sheikh Shadi al-Misri in NBIC. You have Sheikh Hatim al-Hajj. You have so many other scholars. I don't know who else is here, but I know two of them in the area surrounding. Do we have anyone in MC Engine? Imam Jawad Ahmed. Sheikh Abu Zayd. Actually, he's my friend in Qadi. How can I forget it? Sheikh Abu Zayd. Sheikh Mitwalli in Ahmed Mitwalli, mashallah. There's so many people. Why do you want to just go to the famous sheikh only? Like if a lion is attacking you, what are you going to say? No, only a famous person will save me from this attack. Ignorance is a much bigger animal than the lion. If that's attacking you, you should take help from everyone, whether obscure or famous person. This is some kind of an arrogance we have in our heart that we're only going to learn from a famous individual. You go to your local people, actually many times they are better. They're not in limelight, they won't even have distraction. They will teach you Islam as it is. So try to go there and try to have multiple resources. If you have only one source, I'm listening to only one sheikh, he will collapse and Islam will collapse. If he's teaching me wrong ideas because of whatever reason, I'm getting wrong ideas. Try to have multiple resources of seeking Islamic knowledge so that eventually you can have a backup plan also, inshallah.
Said one thing to that, inshallah ta'ala, regarding adab and respect for our ulama. We have adab and respect for our ulama, that's part of our deen. But why? Because of who they are supposed to represent. Right? That's the key. We respect them and honor them because they speak upon or speak on behalf of the Prophet ﷺ, as they are the inheritors of the Prophet to us. That's the key. Right? It's not because of necessarily who they are as an individual, but who they are because of their learning and study, etc. I was once with a great Shaykh, subhanAllah, many years. Tremendous. And he said, my whole life I went through these rules of adab toward the Shaykhs. He followed them, and he's a Shaykh himself. He said his whole life, he's 80 years old. He tells me 77 years old. Then I realized, all of this, the purpose is to prepare us for the meeting with the Messenger of God. It's not about the Shaykh. You kiss their hands, you honor them, etc. Because of what? He said it's to prepare ourselves to have the proper adab, to be with the Messenger of God, that it becomes a part of who we are. It's not really about the individual per se. It's who he represents, and to prepare us accordingly. So inshallah ta'ala, we don't want to wave broad brushes. No, our tradition is from to respect our ulama, to respect our scholars. And yes, when somebody falls, okay, we recognize that's a possibility. Perfection lies with the Prophet ﷺ in this world. So we don't forget that. So that's why we should never lose our bearings on that. Right? And so we take the khayr, we take the goodness. As Ibn Abbas, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he advised.
He said, make sure you show your honor and respect to the dead is preferable even to the living. So what do you mean? He said, because you know their end. Right? Their life is over. Because we don't know. Allah knows where I'll be in 10 years in Sheikh Asif, whatever. We don't know. Right? We have no idea. So he said, put your love and attachment, yes, into the living, but put it more into those of scholars and that who passed. Why? Because we know their end. We know the end of the life, the whole life. So just show a little restraint in terms of, as things are, and recognize that teachers are there, why they're honored. One last thing, because I remember when, it's very interesting, again, the blessings we have in this deen. Anyone been to Paris before, France? Who's been to Paris? No? You been to Notre Dame before it burned? Who's been to Notre Dame? Okay, Notre Dame. Amazing cathedral. Architectural wonder for the Western world, etc., maybe 1,000-year-old before it was burned. So when I went there, I didn't know. It was actually called the Poor Man's Cathedral. The Poor Man's Cathedral. It's the most lavish cathedral I had ever been in. It's filled with more images and statues than I've ever seen in any cathedral or church. We're talking about church now. Statues, pictures, etc., paintings, beyond what you see in any other place. What is this? It's all grand. But it's a very unique cathedral. Because what happened is, apparently, they had designed it in such a way, so you see these paintings of different scenes from the Bible. And it's not just of what you usually find in cathedrals regarding the New Testament scenes. It's Old Testament, it's about the creation of Adam and Moses, etc., through statues and pictures, etc. So they said actually most of the world, up until recent times, was illiterate. So they could actually go into the cathedral and actually see the images, almost like a comic book, of the Bible. That's the narrative of the Bible. It has all these pictures and photos. So this is one of the honors that they say of the Notre Dame, that it allowed access to people who couldn't read, who couldn't write, to the text. But then when I was thinking about it, I said, it's great, they're trying to get rid of it. That's still coming through a filter. Because who's telling them what's important in the text? Who's telling them what's important? The ones who were literate, the priests and others. And their depiction is what you are digesting. And that was the first time I fully appreciated this idea of the Quran being a book of memory. Most of Muslim history, the world in Muslim history, were illiterate. Most Muslims, like the rest of the world, unable to read or write. But they were all given access to the text through memory. We say, oh, why are we memorizing the books? Well, because it allowed and it empowered an entire community to have access to the actual text. That what? If you had a scholar in the past who started to say things and deviate, etc., we had them in our history, what happened? There was always the self-correcting mechanism, because it just takes one in a crowd who understands what they've memorized, who challenges the scholar, and that goes. And that's why, in spite of not having an official clergy or an official this or an official that, you find in our history there was the self-correcting mechanism by the Ummah, because they were given access, unadulterated, uninterpreted, of the text itself. What a blessing. Yes, we have scholars who interpret, etc. But you can see the manipulation that took place in other faith communities because it was based upon a literate, or only a literate understanding, that they could manipulate the masses for generations. This didn't happen in the Ummah. Yes, we had our deviations here and there, but there was always that self-correcting, because everybody was empowered with the text itself. And so thus a scholar, if he was doing it for some other scholars for dollars and these types of things that we had in our history, it was always kept in check because we were given access. So it was just another blessing. I realized of the deen, yes, of the preservation of the Quran, the barakah of the Quran, but just that aspect alone, how we were empowered as a community from the time of Prophet ﷺ until now. And other faith communities, they didn't have that.
All right, inshallah. So we're going to end off with that. Jazakallah khair to both of our speakers. We're very blessed and honored to have you. May Allah bless and preserve you guys. Alhamdulillah. So I'm just going to make a really quick announcement about an event that Dr. Asad Harani is going to be at this weekend at Al-Falah. Saturday, November 9th from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. It's going to be a workshop on Islam versus modern idols. So we're talking about like secularism, liberalism, feminism. And lunch will be available for purchase. So I think you should go to alfalascenter.org if you want to register. So yeah, that's happening this Saturday, November 9th from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. If any other orgs want to make announcements, I think MSA had an announcement to make, right?
Assalamualaikum everyone. I made this reminder when we first started, but most of you weren't here. Just a quick reminder on like why MSA does things the specific ways that we do every single Thursday. We first start with an icebreaker for you guys to come in and get to meet each other and meet the new people that are coming in. It's great to have this attendance during the speaker time, but at the same time, a lot of Muslim students on campus don't really feel welcome and they don't have a lot of like Muslim friends, and they come to MSA to meet these new friends. And when we're not there for these icebreakers and these activities, we don't really get to interact with each other. So just be aware that like you need to be a bit more welcoming and like invite these new people coming in. If you see someone sitting on the side, if you see someone that's not talking to someone, include them in your groups and have these conversations with them and invite them to come back. We're only like 8 student members and all the spec heads. Sometimes like we don't meet everyone in the room, and that's not good. Okay guys, I don't have the mic, so just like, okay, we don't have the room for, like we don't always get to meet everyone in the room, so make sure that you're doing that. Text each other, invite them to events, not just MSA Thursdays, there's also brother and sister social for you guys to have these social events as well. The second thing I'll mention is like, again, what's the purpose of post waves? If you can't come early because of classes, that's totally fine. Post waves are also there. Go out, have fun, and like meet each other. And the third thing is when we're at MSA events, be aware of your space, be aware of how you interact with each other. There's modesty not just in how we look, but also in how we act. Sometimes like there's volume from outside when the speakers are inside, that's not appropriate. Even when we're speaking within like groups, like make sure that you're being cognizant of the space that we're in. And like we mentioned in the talk as well, like gender interactions, and every single time we talk about this, we talk about the same things. There's proper protocol and etiquette that we need to adhere to. So be mindful of your adab and your tone, especially with also your fellow Muslims. If there's someone from MSA leadership telling you to like do something, be part of an activity, just do it. Or like if you don't like what we're doing, there's feedback forms we're always releasing. We don't get a lot of responses after every event, and it's good that we want to hear your guys' feedback. So make sure you fill those out if you have something that's negative or positive that you want us to continue, so that we can always better improve. Other than that, Zakumullah khair. Announcements.
Alright, just echoing off Aisha, both brothers and sisters, we do post waves for a reason. And like, listen, like you see someone new, say salam, right? Like I see so many new people here in the crowd, so much diversity. We're trying to bring people in, not put people out. So this is a whole family right here. Join your brother in, join your sister in, smiling with sunnah, smile at your fellow Muslim brothers and sisters respectively. And yeah, inshallah, this is actually an announcement that I wanted to give on behalf of Rutgers MSA. You guys are probably wondering, why has Rutgers MSA not released 2025 merch yet? Why? It's because we haven't sold out of 2024 merch. So if you guys can do me a favor right here, we have our brother right here wearing the crew neck and the sweats. Brother, how comfortable is this merch?
I'd say it's really comfortable.
Do you like the design?
Yeah, I really like the shade of blue.
And what about the joggers? Like, do you wear them often?
Yeah, they're really comfortable, especially when
Oh wow, this brother wears the joggers to sleep. Do you ball with them too?
yeah.
My brothers, we're gonna have a ball wave after this. Maybe you can buy these, pop some balls.
I'll sauce you guys with this one.
So ladies and gentlemen, we're doing a deal right now. This is 22, this is 22, but for you guys, just right now, limited edition, both of these, if you cop it, will give you $40. So that's $4 off. My brothers, listen, that's a deal, come on. And look, this is the most cheapest crew neck and sweat I've ever seen. So in the market, if you guys are down, right outside the door, there's gonna be a brother and a sister respectively. Please go and cop. Right now, we have plenty of merch. And we want 2025 merch, inshallah. Yeah. So let's get this sold. Yeah. And now, if any specs, inshallah, have any announcements, the socials with the post waves, inshallah. The mic working? Should I use it?
Assalamu alaikum. Just real quick.
So just a reminder that, for everyone that got tickets this Sunday, will be Arc Out, inshallah. If any of you guys want to donate art, tomorrow is the last day to do so. Drop off, will be happening during Rutgers Jummah, which is tomorrow, Cook Student Center in PR, I believe. So if you have art, or you're still making a piece, or you want to donate a piece, tomorrow is your last opportunity to do so. So I'm clear.
For the sisters, we did post on the Sister Social Instagram story, but if you didn't see it, after this we're going to be going to Mango, inshallah. So definitely stick around. I want to see everyone there. We're just going to clean up the event and then we'll be arranging rides, inshallah. It's literally 8 minutes away, so it'll be good.
Don't leave.
Yeah, don't leave. No one leave.
Assalamu alaikum, brothers.
Why?
Hey, assalamu alaikum, brothers. So the brother social post wave tonight, inshallah, will be at ball at Cook, and then inshallah food after. We decided food after ball, inshallah. So everyone here to ball at Cook, please come through, be competitive, inshallah, and have a great time, inshallah.
Basketball.
Also, we have spike ball. Shout out Rafi to bring, inshallah. So definitely come through, guys, have fun and enjoy it.
Brothers, before you leave, we're going to be taking a picture with all the imams and sheikhs that we have with us. So, inshallah, before you leave, let's get a picture in, yeah? Assalamu alaikum.
Line up, guys, go. Please line up. Guys, everyone line up, please. Yeah. So everyone line up, please. Brothers, please line up, inshallah, for a photo. Line up there, let's go. Guys, everyone listen out loud right now. Please line up for the photo, inshallah.
So what do you want to say to the live? It's gonna go on the YouTube.
Is it still on live? Nobody on.